Greetings YouTube viewers. Today I'm going to show you how to make our Louisiana world famous Cajun gravy. Today I'm using number one, what you need is a very sharp knife. Sharper the better. Remember, it's dull knives that cut you, it's not the sharp ones. So always use that. I have here just a beef sirloin steak, cut 2 inches thick. I have 2 onions, a large and a small. And I have 2 bell peppers, a green bell pepper and a red bell pepper. We're going to start with the meat right now. It's very important to start with a clean countertop and clean hands and everything for bacteria and whatnot. First thing we're going to do is cut up this steak. Beautiful, lovely steak. Cut it up into rather large sizes, or it can be as small as you want. It doesn't even have to be as thick as this. I just prefer a thick steak in my gravy. If you want, you can cut it in layers like this, and then just cut off of it as you go. Make like little cubes. That always works great. And remember, the sharper the knife, the better. Always. It's not the sharp knife that will cut you. It's always a dull knife. Because when you try to force it down, that's when you get your finger. Now our meat is cut. Okay? We'll put that to the side just for now. Take your bell pepper. Just want to cut out the top like this. And get all the seeds and everything that's in it. Like a little cap comes off. And just throw it in your garbage can. Now it's hollowed out. Okay, cut it down the middle. You can take it, just cut it just like this. And you do the same with the other half. And again, it makes it really easy to cut through this with a sharp knife. You got a lot less chance of injuring yourself, forcing it. I highly recommend always use a sharp knife, razor sharp. All right, now you have your bell peppers. We'll push that to the side. Do the same thing with the red bell pepper. Cut out the top and all the seeds, all the insides. Hollow it out. Do the same thing. What I'm going to do on this one, I'm not going to go all the way through when I cut it. See how it's still attached? This way, this is how you can cheat a little bit. You just cut and you'll get both of them. And again, this method really doesn't work with a dull knife at all. It'll just dent it down and you won't cut that bottom piece. So there's just a few little tricks to remember. Now, you got your red bell pepper, your green bell pepper. Now you can take your onions. The way you do an onion is you cut the ends off, just like so, just like so. Throw that away, and it makes it a lot easier to peel all that skin off. Just peel the skin off. If you get down a couple of layers, that is fine, doesn't matter. Okay. Sometimes I like to go in that little extra layer, pull it all off. Okay, I have this one done. I'm going to go ahead and do this one too. Cut the end off. Cut the other end off. And it's a yellow onion, by the way. Nothing special. You can get all of this at your local grocery store. I prefer getting my meat from a local meat market. Sometimes they'll tend to have fresher beef, and it makes a difference sometimes, but again, anything will do. Alright, now to cut the onion, you just cut it in half like so. For a large onion like this, you can cut it again in quarters. And you can, again with your sharp knife, you can cut both halves. Or both quarters, should I say. Just watch your fingers when you get close. Alright, push that to the side. Sharp knives are better again. Alright, now we're going to take the small one, cut it in half. Since it's a small one, I'm not going to cut it again. Just going to cut it. Alright, and this is it. Other than the spices and seasonings I'll get into, let's move on to the pot. This is the part you've been waiting on. Okay, what I have here for the seasoning is just Tony Chachere seasoning, Creole seasoning, Louisiana hot sauce, a little black pepper. This is optional. Just a little dab of Worcestershire sauce. And I have extra virgin olive oil. You don't particularly need this. You can use this, or you can use peanut oil or something else if you want to add that. Okay. Just going to turn the fire as hot as you can put it. Alright. Take this Tony's. Instead of using the Tony Chachere's, you can also use just salt, table salt. You can really cake this on there if you like it spicy like the way we do. Alright, got that. Black pepper. Just a dab of Worcestershire. Be done with it. And some hot sauce. You can kind of cake it on there as well. Okay, yeah, and the extra virgin olive oil. What you want to just put a little bit, just enough to fry the meat. Just a dab. Watch very carefully how much I put. And that is plenty. You don't have to add any more of this. If you're using pork meat, I don't even add oil because pork is kind of fatty, and it drops a lot of fat, a lot of grease from the fat. But just put a little bit. That'll just make it fry and darken and brown your meat. That's the most important thing about making this dark Cajun gravy, is to brown your meat. But what I mean by that is frying it. It actually, you keep the fire going, keep everything going until the meat actually starts to stick to the pot. When it starts to stick to the pot, leave it in there a little longer before you even flip it. I'll show you here in a second. Let me get this going. Let me get it where it starts to stick, and I'll turn this baby back on. Okay, now you can see that the meat is starting to stick to the pot. It's starting to fry. You can hear it frying in the pot. It's wanting to kind of stick. It doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot as much as it normally does if you have peanut oil or vegetable oil, which I rather use than the extra virgin olive oil. But whatever you have is fine. You really want it to get it nice and brown. See how it's starting to get really brown on the underneath? That's how you want your meat to look. So this is still okay, like it is. See, this is pretty much the way you want it to look, almost turning black. But you don't want it black where it's burnt. What you do, you add just a little bit of water. Just a little dab of water. It helps with to unstick if it is sticking. And this piece here, we'll go ahead and roll it over. And we'll roll this one over. It's getting pretty close. We'll flip them all. And we can always fry it down again. So just reverse the size that you're cooking on. And it is better using a round steak as well, but this is all the meat market had that I went to. Alright, now we have this side of the meat that we flipped. Well, I wanted to show you earlier, we're going to season that side of it too the same way. You can really cake it on there. Alright. You could have done this as soon as you flipped it, or it really doesn't matter that much. You really don't want a lot of Worcestershire sauce. Alright, now that it's kind of sticking, you check any piece. Yeah, it's getting that brown film. Alrighty. What you want to do is add just a little bit of water. Well, the water is to keep it, when it's sticking, it helps you, when using a fattier and be like round steak or whatnot, it'll tend to stick a little bit more, it's a little fattier. So you just want a little bit, it helps you break it off the bottom of that pot. And you can go ahead and flip it and do it all again. Actually, there's a few of these in here that aren't quite ready. I'll put them back like they were. Let it fry a little bit longer. And when you cut your meat thick, the way I did, like this one here, if you can actually take a little bit more time and fry all four corners of it. But you don't have to, it just depends on you. Now, we'll just let this set a little bit longer. Alright, now what you want to do, you want to add all your onions and bell peppers that you cut up earlier. What we're going to do, we're going to add a little bit of water. Not a whole lot, because your vegetables, like your meat did, is going to drop a lot of juice. Get a pot holder here if you don't burn yourself. Just want to kind of stir it up a little bit. And a lot of the black you see in the pot right here, that's all what makes your gravy. We add a little bit more. Kind of scratch that off the pot so it all mixes in. If it stays too long, it'll burn. You just kind of scratch it off. And the most significant thing about the way we do gravies here, notice we don't use any powdered gravy, powdered roux, or anything when you're making a gravy. You just use roux if you're making a fricassee, which is a stew, or a gumbo. Not for gravies. Alright, now you're going to take your vegetables and dump it in like so. Alright, now you want to give it another good stir. Kind of get your meat on the top of it if you can. Just where it's your vegetables now, they're at the bottom of the pot. Your meat had its turn to fry. Now all you're going to do now is the same thing as you did with your meat. Let them start to stick, let them fry down. When it's wanting to kind of stick to the bottom of the pot, you'll add just a little bit of water. And you'll stir it. Let's wait and let them start sticking. Alright, here's what it'll look like after you've been frying your onions down for a while and bell peppers and everything. Again, you do just like you did your meat. When you add them in the pot like we did a minute ago, you just keep stirring. It's going to drop a lot of juice. Just wait till it fries down. Just when it wants to start sticking to the bottom of the pot, you add a little bit of water. Then you stir it up again. You try to leave your meat, kind of pick them up where they're on top. of your onions and bell peppers, and just continue to do that. You might do it for half an hour to an hour, just depending on how hot your fire is. I've been doing it for probably about an hour, I guess, and here's the onions and bell peppers mixed with the gravy, and as you can see, that gravy's starting to come along real dark. And again, the trick here for Cajun gravy is not to add none of these powder gravy packets you find on TV. We make it just with the juice, the blood from the meat, and that's how we. Now we just got to add a little water. Add some water here. Alright, so we're finished frying everything down. Now is the part that we want to smother it. What this does is tenderizes your meat. You can put a good, there's no special amount of water you need to put. Just fill it up till your meat's covered and kind of give it another good stir, and then scrape your pot like I was showing you earlier. All that brown and black stuff on it, nothing's burnt. That's just part of your gravy. Scrape all that off where it all cooks together in the pot. And we're going to let this set for a few minutes while it's cooking. The fire's still going. The water's going to boil down. Here's what that gravy looks like now, but it's still not ready because we have a lot of gravy, a lot of water in here. It helps tenderize the meat, and also it helps cook all the seasoning into the meat. And you're going to end with a dark meat. What happens is the water is going to continue to evaporate out and thicken your gravy up. You don't need any roux, any powder, flour, anything. And we'll check on it again after a while for the finished product. Now that we got it boiled down a little bit, you got some of the water out of it. You see now a nice thick gravy to put over your rice. Now just one last, you got to do the taste test. Get you a nice clean spoon. If only y'all could smell, if only y'all could have that smell and that taste. I like it a little bit more seasoned. I'm going to add a little bit more of the Tony Chachere's. Wouldn't recommend this on your first time doing it unless you're accustomed to this. Stir that seasoning around in there. One more taste test. Now there you have it. Perfect Cajun gravy. No powder, no flour, no anything. Just straight gravy from the meat. Hope you enjoy.